This is Grindset, where we go inside the minds of those that grind, celebrating and spotlighting entrepreneurship in Memphis. With your host, Dana James Mwange and Williams Brack.
Welcome to Grindset, powered by Kazukian and presented by Epicenter. I'm co-host Dana James Mwange, branding and web consultant and creative connoisseur.
And I'm Williams Brack, owner of Building Bankable Businesses. And we're here with Dana Pointer, CEO
Hello.
of PreserverPartners, an investment management firm here in Memphis, Tennessee. And in the investment management industry, it's trillions and trillions of dollars of asset management. But for Black-owned firms, it's less or approximately 1%. And so we're really here to talk about the profession of managing other people's money, right? Investment management, some of the challenges that exist, not only for Black-owned firms, but now a firm that's led by a Black woman. So really excited to learn about the investment management industry, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and just being a business owner overall. Dana?
We're here live at Epicenter, and we'll be right back with Dana Pointer.
Check out all your Kazukian favorites now.
Welcome back to Grindset. We're here with Dana Pointer, CEO of PreserverPartners. Dana, welcome to the Grindset.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So as we get started, can you share with us and the Grindset audience what PreserverPartner does?
Well, PreserverPartners, we are based here in Memphis, Tennessee, and we manage assets for institutional clients and high net worth individuals. And institutional clients such as pension plans, foundations and endowments, family offices, and corporations. Also our high net worth individuals. And what we do is we manage their assets through our private funds or separately managed accounts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not in the investment management industry, I have no idea what you just said.
Right.
So is there a simpler version for people who aren't industry professionals?
Yes. Well, all institutions have investment portfolios. They have money that they need to invest because they are not spending their money. They have operating budgets. They have capital that they are not going to utilize on a daily basis. So they put it to the side and invest it so that it grows. Mm-hmm. Pension plans, I stated some of our clients, pension plans, foundations, and endowments, they'll invest pensioners' money. Foundation and endowments invest the monies that they receive from donors. And as you know, endowments and foundations, they give their money away. Mm-hmm. So they would like for that money to grow while it's not being awarded. Gotcha. So what we do is we manage their assets in a way that is very, very non-traditional. Mm-hmm. Every investment portfolio should be invested in a diverse way. Mm-hmm. You've heard of stocks and bonds. Mm-hmm. Okay, stocks and bonds are not really what we do. We're an alternative investment manager. And what we do is we invest in those differentiated things that are non-traditional, that usually carry more risk, but they also carry more appreciation. They have a higher return potential. So that's kind of our niche. Gotcha. That's our niche.
You just said something about your brand niche, about your company's brand niche, about doing things slightly differently. In a different way. How do you get traditional institutions and organizations to sign off or believe or support this new way of investing. How has that been?
That's a great question because really in today's environment, everyone knows, I know that everyone doesn't follow the market, but everyone knows that interest rates have risen, right? So we're in a really high interest rate environment, so everything costs a lot more. But to our benefit, that means the returns are higher because we have higher yields, and which is higher rates that we're earning on our investments. So, investors go where the return is.
Right.
So that has always been our edge, and it's not always been popular, which has kind of hindered us early in the start of our firm, hindered some of our growth because it was more of an educational piece. It was about educating those decision makers on the other side of the table, and we were trying to get them to understand that this is what you need, because when markets are all crazy, what you have here, we're non-traditional, we have a really good edge, and we're differentiated from everything else you have. When everything else is tanking, you're going to always have a great return with us. So the risk is a great risk-reward situation. So,
I have to ask you this question because we have a lot of listeners who are aspiring entrepreneurs, or they're in the beginning stages. And I love this conversation that we're having because what you're saying about a new way of doing things and having to put a lot of education out before you're able to work with the client in a particular way, a lot of us have to do that same thing. Can you tell us what it was like, the first client that said, yes, we're going to try it your way? Because a lot of us entrepreneurs need to develop the courage to step up and be consultants the same way you're talking about in your company.
And that's a good point because when you start your own business and in entrepreneurship, you get way more no's than yeses. So you have to have some real thick skin. So when we first started the firm, which was back in 2009, we got a lot of no's. We had very few yeses, but you just have to keep grinding. But you also have to be an advocate for yourself. So you always you have to have an edge, a competitive edge, because there are a million people out there, no matter what industry you're in, there are tons of people that are out there doing what you do. Whether you're a hairstylist or you're, a corner store or whatever your industry is, there are others that are doing it. So you have to be able to tell your story and tell why you are a great option. So that first yes for us was major. It was major, and it was a big yes. It was a client that we had been going after for a while that had been saying no, but we stayed. And what the biggest thing, the biggest piece of advice I would give someone starting out is not to give up, but also ask for feedback. Feedback is extremely valuable. From those prospects that you get no's, go back and ask them, hey, can you explain to me why you said no? And what can I do? When I come back to you, I want you to say yes. What do I need to go home and do? What's my homework for you to say yes? So and you have to be committed, because if you go back to them, you need to come back strong.
Yes.
You need to come back doing what they asked for. So my point is, when you go to sell your product, you got to sell yourself, but you also have to listen. You have to listen to who you're talking to, find out what their needs are, and figure out how you can meet their need with your product or your service.
Well, Dana P., I appreciate you for sharing that. And as we mentioned, you are the CEO, but I don't think you or anybody else starts off as the CEO of an entity. So what's been your journey from starting your career to now CEO?
Well, it's been a long journey. I've been in this industry for 30 years, 30 years this year. And it's been a great journey. It's been a long journey. I actually rose to CEO out of tragedy. My business partner, who was previously the president and chief investment officer of Preserver, he died suddenly. Very, very devastating to a lot of people. But my career started as an accountant in banking. 15 years I was there. Through that role, I met my business partner. He branched out. He also was an employee and a partner of another firm. Branched out, decided to start his own firm. So he actually founded Preserver, and I joined him when he opened the doors, or before he opened the doors. Actually, I joined him as chief operating officer and chief compliance officer. And so we built the firm from the ground up, and it was a long 13 years. And when he suddenly passed away, I was faced with the decision on whether I'd shut the doors or whether I'd do what I need to do to make it work. And I went back and forth for weeks and weeks and weeks and days, and I decided I wasn't giving up. I just could not see myself working for someone else, and what we had built was too strong to just give up too easy. So I fought, and here we are a year later, and we're thriving, and it's been a good journey. It's been a long, hard journey, and we still have a long way to go, but it's really good. It's really, and I have a really, really great team. We work as a team. There are no I's in Preserver.
Yeah. Well, the investment management industry is notoriously fickle, and even more fickle when you're dealing with Black-owned firms. And when you have a tragedy like losing a CEO and investment management officer, what tends to happen is these people freeze up, they get a little scared,
Lose confidence.
and lose confidence and want to take the money out of the fund.
Absolutely.
What were conversations like to them to say, hey, I've been here for X number of years, but give us a chance and believe in the future of Preserver?
Yeah. What really carried me and what the reason I was able to stabilize the majority of our investors was being honest, just being real. I'll just say being real. There's nothing, and I don't care who your clients are, what their age, what their ethnicity is. People like honesty. And another thing I'll give advice for anyone who wants to start a business or anyone in business, people do business with people they know and people they like.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be fake, but if you're yourself, if you're your true authentic self, and you actually have to be a good person too,
Right.
in order to be liked. But people like doing business with people they can trust. And when it was time to make those hard phone calls, I was flat out honest. And I said, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I can give you my word that I'm going to do everything that it takes to get someone in here just as good as Floyd was, or even better, which was really, really hard. He had some big shoes to fill.
Absolutely.
And I was very, very transparent. And I think that really, well, I don't think it really carried a lot of weight. And it took me a long way. And I was very, very consistent in my communication. And so, and as a Black woman, the majority of our clients don't look like me. And that was one of the really, really hard things early on, was when you walk in the room, you've been, because even another thing that we struggled with early on was putting our pictures on our website. Because in this industry, if you look like us, you don't know what you're doing unless you work for one of the big names. So being a Black woman in 2024 is totally different from being a Black woman pre-2020, pre-George Floyd,
Of course.
pre a lot of this DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of that, it's a different world. And so prior to where we are now with Black being beautiful and popular, and especially women being the popular thing to do now, it was really hard, and all we could lean on was our education, our intelligence, and we knew what we were doing when it came to investments. And so you just have to really be creative and find the best way to communicate that to who you're talking to, and be honest and be real. And that's what's really carried us to where we are today, and I'm not going to change that.
It's amazing how honesty can be a main brand difference. I wanted to go back to something that you said about representation. As somebody who does web, I have had this same conversation with organizations that were saying, we don't want to show our pictures yet.
Yeah.
We don't want to show our pictures yet. So did you all decide to show who you are on your website? What has that been like?
Well, you being a brand person, you probably would totally disagree with what we did, because we went back and forth. I mean, there were times we had our pictures on there, and then we're like, okay, take them down. And then next month, okay, put them back up. And it was really not a good thing to do, because it was kind of depending on who we were talking to at the time and how traffic was being driven to our site. We said, okay, maybe we don't want our pictures on there for this event. But we really struggled because we wanted to be able to show that we were quality. And unfortunately, back in the day, and not even back in the day, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that think when they see us walk in the room that you're not going to get quality service, you're not going to get good service, and you're not going to get, you know, a high level of what you're looking for. And so we felt that we needed to prove that before we showed our face. But you know, when we got to once you get to a certain level, it's like, here I am.
Right.
You know, yeah, here I am. Now what? You know, if you don't want me, okay, we can go talk to someone else. So it's a judgment call, because you gotta what they call it, kiss a lot of frogs. You gotta kiss a lot of frogs to be successful, and that's okay if it works out. But you do learn a lot along the way, and I mean, you really have to judge your audience, and it depends on the industry that you're in. And like I say, in 2024, hey, it's popular to look like us.
You know, that's a tough conversation to have, because I know for a fact that non-minority firms aren't having these conversations. They aren't having the battle of, should we put pictures up on the website?
Exactly.
But we're going to talk about some more, I guess, challenges of being a minority-owned firm, and some of the benefits, maybe, if there are any, after the break.
Okay.
You're listening to Grindset, and we'll be right back with Dana Pointer, CEO of PreserverPartners.
Welcome back to Grindset. Again, we are filming here in Epicenter, one of the biggest supporters of Memphis entrepreneurs. We are back talking to Dana Pointer. And before the break, you were just talking about being yourself, being able to stand on your characteristics and on integrity and all of these things. I looked online and I saw you do a lot of philanthropy work. You're on a lot of boards. You speak out a lot about, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It seems like you have a very strong relationship with Black women, just Black women executives. What is it that you can teach us about being bold, about stepping into a room and not shrinking? What kind of exercises can we do?
There are a lot of exercises, and a lot of my the way that I've carried myself and the way that I've grown as a professional has been because of those around me. Mm-hmm. I have a really, really great sister circle. I have great friends and sisters and colleagues in the industry, and we help each other. No one knows everything, and we're constant learners. We learn. We can never learn enough. We're always learning, and I learn a lot from other professionals, other women in leadership positions, no matter what the industry is. But when you're an entrepreneur, and especially when you're a leader, you're a CEO, you carry a lot. You carry a lot. A lot of times, it really does feel like you have multiple families that are dependent on you. And it's really true, because if you can't make this thing float, and you can't grow, and you can't make it happen, or keep things on, keeps the lights on, it affects more than just you. It's just not a job anymore. It's you have other people depending on you, and it's a lot to carry. It's a lot of burden, but it does feel good, and it feels good. And it allows you to have that little boost to continue to grind. No pun intended. But it's a grind, and the confidence. I've learned so much. I go to a lot of forums and listen to a lot of webinars. Go to a lot of conferences, and a lot more recently, I've gone to a lot of women. Everything based around women, and every time I leave with so much wisdom, so much more that I can go and pour into other women. One of the biggest things I learned recently, and this is probably something I would not have paid much attention to before, but now being a CEO, even though, as a COO, I pretty much ran the business anyway, but it wasn't all on me. Now it's all on me. One of the things that really helped me, and hopefully it helps other women that are in leadership roles and running businesses, is that every woman needs an executive coach and a therapist. And so I went to a conference about a year ago, and I just sitting in the audience, looking at a stage of about 5 women that were like idols. A few of them were really idols for me, and it was just, I just felt honored to even be in the room. And I was actually shocked, but I don't know why I was shocked, but it's just, you just learn so many things by listening to others and shutting your mouth and listening. And the whole executive coach thing, it really resonated with me. I immediately went back home, started looking for one. I reached out to a couple of those ladies and other people and asked for referrals. I got lots of referrals, and I ended up talking to a few, and I hired one, and it has changed my world just that quick. So I said all that to say, you never think you're too big to still need help, and always keep a circle around you of people that are going in the same direction, people that are driven, people that are motivated, and people that have a grind in them. Because I talk about the confidence and being unapologetically yourself, because people do business with people they know and they like, but you have to know what you're talking about too. You have to be good at what you do. You can't, be unapologetic about knowing nothing or not being great at what you do. But when you're grinding, you kind of own it, and you have the ability to have that confidence. And so I just say I like to pour into others and allow others to pour into me. And that's the only way that we get better. And to speak to the philanthropic passion that I have, I just know that there's so many people out there in underserved communities, and especially younger, whether they're children or teens or young adults that just didn't have exposure. I didn't have a lot of exposure to this industry as a very young person, and I know there are a lot of people that don't have exposure to a lot of positivity, and so I just try to do what I can to pour into to younger people and people that don't have the exposure, or even people around them that can help them take it to another level and just even think differently.
I have to ask, the speaking engagements, some of the community work, and you do it because you're passionate about it and you care about the community.
But has there been a secondary benefit of it being good for business development, either directly or indirectly?
Sometimes you connect with, in those circles, you are networking with people that you could collaborate with later on, or they could actually refer someone to you, or you're kind of looking at a prospect or someone I'm looking at, and I say, ooh, I know that person because they were on a board with me, or they sat on a panel with me. But for the most part, there is no direct benefit to my business. If anything, it's a direct benefit to my business because it makes me happy. And I go back even more motivated because I really want to grow this business so that we could hire more people that look like us, educate more people, and just it's like an ecosystem. And so that's more of the benefit. And I think that's more of an indirect benefit.
You mentioned hiring people that look like you. And what I found over the years, talking to CEOs and CFOs and having conversations with companies, minority-owned firms tend to have more diverse workforces, right? So I give an example of a bank out of Arkansas. Their CEO is Black. His executive management team is diverse. His board is diverse. But as I look around at financial institutions of similar sizes, they have problems with diversity. But Black-led founders have no problem. They hire Black, they hire white, they hire Indian, they hire whoever is best for the job. And I've looked at Preserver's team, and you've built a diverse team. So talk about how you build and find these diverse teams where other investment management firms or other financial institutions are claiming that they can't find good, diverse talent.
Right. Well, one of the things I'll speak to there in this industry, and a lot of people laugh if I'm in New York or Chicago or LA and say, oh, we're an investment management firm. Oh, where are you located? I'm in Memphis. Memphis? What made you do that? This is just not the typical place for this industry. So there are not a lot of, there are financial advisors, there are CPA firms, but asset management is totally different. Like we manage hedge funds. So Memphis is not your typical place for what we do. Therefore, a lot of the talent or young people that are very skilled or that want to work in the investment management industry, they go to college and they never come back because there aren't opportunities here. So it's been hard to really find a skill set of people that we want, even if they're young people. The young talent, they aren't in Memphis. So it gives me even more motivation to build a really nice firm so we can attract people, because it's been hard because we find people for certain roles and they don't want to move to Memphis, or even and so that's why it's good. And right now, in this last few years, we've actually started having relationships. We have internship program every summer, but normally those kids don't even come back because we can't even compete with what a firm in New York is going to pay them. Or a larger firm will pay them. And that's why it's really, really important for me to be successful in our firm, because we want to be able to compete with JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs to really get these kids straight out of college that are ready to learn and are very, very bright. But the diversity side of it, it's just we're dealing with a smaller pool. And so we're having to find the talent how we find it, and we're not searching for just a white guy or just a Black girl or just an Asian woman. We're looking for somebody that can come in and do the job.
You're talking you're talking about running a team and attracting the best talent. I want to talk about you nurturing the talent that you have. So what are some things that you do to make people feel welcome, and what do you do to retain the people that you have on your team? What are some team building tips that you might have?
That is one of the things that I've recently, with my executive coach.
You want to do
I know. Should I don't know if you want to do that. I don't. I have to think about that. Maybe she didn't want me to do that. But with my executive coach, and I've the team. I've always managed our team anyway, but I took it to another level because I felt like, okay, I want them to be fulfilled. And I have great team. I don't want them to leave, so I want them. And also, I want to make sure that I share ownership. I think that's very, very, very important because you get so much more out of people when they have ownership. And because you eat what you kill, and if you're just getting a paycheck, when you're gonna get that paycheck regardless, it's a different kind of vibe when you walk in the door. So people start paying attention to their travel, to wasting money when they're owners. But building them up as a leader is very, very important because you want your team to feel like they're learning something, they're getting quality not education, but quality experiences, things that they can build upon. But you also want to give them some autonomy to manage their own job. So the executive coaching has really helped me do that. Just kind of I read a lot on leadership skills, and sometimes I have to remind myself, because I'm not just working all the time. I need to think from a high level view and make sure that they feel appreciated. So when you have employees, you want to make sure they feel appreciated, make sure they feel some kind of ownership. I think that makes a difference, whether they have a real ownership or not, but you want them to know that they're an asset.
Now, I'd be doing a bad job as a financial professional if I didn't know, or if I didn't ask, how do investment management firms even make money?
Right. Well, a percentage of your assets under management. Assets under management are all the assets that you manage for your clients.
Yeah.
And so, all asset management firms are going to make a percentage of that, whether it be 1%, 2%, or whatever. So of the trillions of dollars that are out there being managed,
Yeah.
Asset management firms are making probably on the average about 2%, of 1.5% to 2% of all of those trillions of dollars.
And you get paid whether the assets increase or decrease.
Yep, well now when they decrease, you're getting paid on a lower number, right?
So you have an incentive
Right,
to grow
exactly,
the assets and do
right.
a great job at managing.
Exactly, and to retain them because investors can leave.
Well, we always have to ask, you mentioned mental health, but you're married, you have friends and family. How do you start to balance it all, especially in an intense industry like investment management?
That's a good question. Self-care is so important. And I've never really had a problem with that, but I feel like I've always balanced it well. At least I thought I did until I didn't. But you really have to take time. You have to step back, especially during COVID. During COVID, we were working from home, but we were working for like 14 hours. I would look at my VPE and I'm like, oh my God, I've been at this table for 14 hours and only stepped away a few times. And also when you're in a leadership role, you do tend to work around the clock. You just never turn it off. But you do have to step back. Sometimes you have to step back. You have to have a calendar and say, okay, I'm going to just go for a walk or go shopping, go to TJ Maxx or Marshall's and peruse the aisles or go get a massage. But you have to self-care. You have to step back. And it's really, really important because you're burnt out. You're burnt out. And you have to allow your employees to self-care too.
Absolutely.
Big on that.
That's a great team building tool, I think, allowing them to participate in self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as we close out, any closing thoughts for Grindset listeners or any women or students who are maybe thinking about joining the investment management industry?
Not specifically for the investment management industry because I want to make sure that I speak to all of your listeners and whatever their industry is and whatever their goals are. But you never can put too much emphasis on being yourself. Make sure that you're always yourself and make sure you know your craft, you know your industry. Don't let someone else tell you about your industry. Make sure that you know what you need to know, come to the table prepared. And when you come prepared and you know what you're doing, you can be confident and you can be yourself. And you are good enough. As long as you know that, you got it.
So, Dana, we talked about briefly about, you being in Memphis and how some talent does not, want to move here. It's hard to get talent to move to Memphis. But, we Memphians, we know what is special about this city. And we know what's special about our businesses and running a business in this city. So if you had 3 words that you would use or phrases, to sell Memphis, what would you say? What would be those 3 things?
Well, there are a lot of great things about Memphis. Memphis gets a bad rap, but everywhere I am across the country, people love Memphis. People love Memphis. If they've been here once or they're very familiar with Memphis, they love Memphis. First, I think Memphis is a very giving and nurturing city. It's very family oriented, so I think that's a plus. I also think that there's a lot of, we're in a good location. We're centrally kind of located. And it's easy to network here in Memphis. And also we got some great food.
Yes.
And we got good music and good food. And anywhere you got good music and food, you're good. You can grow a good business.
That's a good quality of life.
That's a good quality of life. And that's true. We have a really good quality of life here. And it's a good place to raise a family.
Yeah, absolutely. And so before we close, where can the Grindset audience find more information about Preserver Partners and maybe Dana Pointer as well?
Okay. Well, we have a website, PreserverPartners.com. We're located right here in the Edge District, right on the edge of downtown on Madison Avenue. And we're always open to have any conversations.
Okay.
This has been such a wonderful interview. We've learned so much. Dana, thank you so much for blessing us with this wisdom. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And so we'll be right back with the major keys. We just finished interviewing Dana Pointer. We'll be back with Grindset after the break.
Check out all your Kazukian favorites now.
Welcome back to Grindset, powered by Kazukian and presented by Epicenter. And we have just wrapped up a wonderful interview with Dana Pointer. And I want to highlight some takeaways. If you were listening, let's talk about a few of the gems that Dana pointed out. She said, you know, you have to keep going. You have to stand up for your process. And you have to be able to educate people on that process and be willing to see it through and be willing to educate until you get the good client that wants to try this experience. That was a major key, I think, for a lot of service providers. Stand up for have a process and stand up for it and be able to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it pays to be bold in business and to be yourself. Authenticity and honesty is a really good selling point in business. And in addition to that, you have to consider investment management career. As we look at billionaires in America, it's real estate, and top 2 or 3 has to include investment management. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can never go wrong being good at managing money. And so Dana and PreserverPartners are building a brand where we're also building confidence that Black-owned firms, minority-owned firms can do a great job in this industry, and really excited to see what PreserverPartner does 2024 and beyond.
That's good. Another takeaway, take care of yourself if you're going to be a good leader. Learn from people who've been there. Learn from people who are going in the same direction as you. And always fill yourself up, because that's the only way you're going to be a good leader, a good CEO, and just have a well-rounded life. Just a well-rounded life as a CEO. You must pour back in to yourself. Self-care is taking care of business.
And Dana, I think people are overly optimistic or think about the rosy side of entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Or when they're getting ready to invest money, they're thinking about the rosy side of investing money. But entrepreneurship is very similar to the investment management industry in that you're gonna do well sometimes, you're gonna have some lows, but like we always say on Grindset, just keep grinding. Mm-hmm. We'll see you next episode.